Fortunately and unfortunately, we are at the national championship game. It's been a very fun season, an eventful and chaotic season, but it's been very fun. And well, like I said, whether or not you are excited for this game or disappointed that it's here, we're here. And it's featuring two teams that have great storylines and have had a number of things to overcome. And that's really what a big part of college football is teams coming together, teams finding ways to fight through adversity, and Notre Dame and Ohio State fit that description. Notre Dame is looking for a national championship under Marcus Freeman, a storyline that we've been talking about for a while, and obviously since the Northern Illinois loss, a game in which Notre Dame fans are probably sick of hearing about, they have found ways to win football games. They have not lost since, and they are looking to end with a national championship win. I think this is a really fun team to watch. We're going to talk about how they beat Ohio State in this game, what they need to do, the keys to the game, the players to watch, and how they find a way to pull off an upset. Ohio State's an 8.5-point favorite. Ohio State is playing really good football right now, but the thing is, so is Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has dealt with injuries. They've dealt with a number of different things throughout the season, as well as within this college football playoff. You lost Riley Mills. You've had injuries on the offensive line. This is a team that has not had a ton of luck in that department, but I think this is a really deep group that has found ways to battle back and battle through those certain things and fight through that adversity. That's made this team really fun to watch, and that's made this team a really good football team. And that leads us to the keys to the game. One of the biggest things that I think you need to do against Ohio State, and Notre Dame has done this really well against other teams, is keeping the explosive plays in check. Keeping everything in front of you and finding ways to slow down this Ohio State offense. TreVeyon Henderson had an explosive catch against Texas, 75 yards for a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith had explosive plays in the previous two games. This is a team that knows how to get in the end zone from anywhere on the field. You have to limit those explosive plays. And Notre Dame has done a really good job of that. I think at times you've had some close calls, but overall this is a team that gets to the quarterback, is disruptive, finds tackles for loss, and doesn't let things get behind them. And like I said, they've dealt with injuries at every position, it felt like. Losing Benjamin Morrison, at the time probably felt like it was a huge loss. They've done a really good job of, I don't want to say replacing him because that's really hard to do, but they have made that loss hurt a little bit less. And that means that you're going to still have newer players, less experienced players, having to guard Jeremiah Smith and Meka Egbuka. We'll talk more about the players and what they can do for Ohio State in a little bit, but limiting explosive plays is going to fall on this group as a whole. And the one nice thing is that, yes, Notre Dame has players that you can rely on and that you look to in certain situations, but they play as a unit. They don't necessarily rely on one or two players more so than the rest. They rely on their whole unit to play together, and that's going to help them limit those explosive plays. Because when you're playing gap sound, you're playing fundamentally sound, you're going to plug up running lanes, you're going to keep everything in front of you, you're not going to make mental mistakes, and that's what's going to help them the most. Also, having Marcus Freeman and Al Golden working together, finding ways to slow down this offense, that says a lot. And then I think an underrated storyline, obviously, people are probably talking about it more than I think, but Marcus Freeman going against his old team. I don't think it has as much weight as it really should, but it's a really interesting storyline, kind of just a fun one to talk about. But also, this is a very good Notre Dame team, and he's obviously very happy with where he's at. But finding ways to slow down this offense, going against the Chip Kelly offense, is going to be difficult. Part of doing that is how you set the tone. That's the second key here, is setting the tone early and often, because Ohio State has talent on both sides of the ball. So your offensive line and your defensive line is really where things start. The offensive line, like I said, they have dealt with injuries all year long. They dealt with injuries in the last game, and they found ways to battle through that adversity. They found ways to continue playing at a high level. They've had injuries. I don't know, if you looked at the injury reports for all teams, I'd say Notre Dame is probably up there in terms of unfortunate injuries and even just injuries that keep guys out for a couple of plays and whatnot. They've had so many moving pieces, and they just continue to win. That speaks to the leadership of this team, whether it's the coaching staff or the players. It speaks to the depth of this team, because a lot of teams don't stay the same or continue winning at this clip because they don't have the depth. Notre Dame has done a really good job of not taking steps back when people go out. They put a guy in and they have a good culture, and not saying other teams don't, but you know a team has a good culture and a good set of leaders on their team when they lose an important player, or whoever they lose, and that position doesn't take a step back, that unit doesn't take a step back. So going against the defensive line against Ohio State will be difficult, and Notre Dame is ready for that challenge. They're also going to have to keep Riley Leonard upright. That's going to be a big key because Notre Dame needs to be balanced. Mike Denbrock has to find a way to get Riley Leonard comfortable early and often because he's going against a really good Ohio State defense, a group that is very good at being disruptive. And I think we saw some potential flaws in Notre Dame's offense against Penn State. I think that Penn State gave Ohio State a little bit of an idea of what you need to do to get to this team and slow this offense down. You have to find ways to get the ball out quick. You have to find ways to get the ball down the field, whether that's through the air or on the ground. You have to set the tone. There's a lot that they need to do against a very talented Ohio State defense. But again, Mike Denbrock has done a lot of good things, and I'm curious to see how they're going to exploit some weaknesses. Because while Penn State did give Ohio State something to look at, Texas also gave Notre Dame something to look at against Ohio State's defense. You look at what Jaden Blue did against that Ohio State defense. How do you get Jeremiah Love in certain situations? How do you get Jordan Faison in certain situations? Jaden Greathouse. You have a number of options in Notre Dame that maybe don't have the talent level of some of these other players, but you have the ability to exploit some weaknesses in Ohio State. You have players and athletes that are better than what Ohio State has in certain situations. And you're telling me you can't put Jeremiah Love in a similar situation as Jaden Blue, a guy who has incredible athleticism, and you're telling me you can't find ways to put him one-on-one with a linebacker? I absolutely believe that Mike Denbrock can, and I'll be interested to see how he does that. The players to keep an eye on for Ohio State, these are going to be guys that are big-time players, impact players. Jack Sawyer is going to lead the way. He's having a phenomenal college football playoff. Ever since the Michigan game, he's been playing lights out. Everybody's talking about his fumble return for a touchdown against Texas, but he has been so much better than just that play. He's been disruptive. He's been in the backfield, and that's something Notre Dame knows they have to slow down. JT Tuimoloau, if he's healthy, he seemed to be lingering a little bit on an injury and just limping around a little bit. He'll have time to recover. He is another player to watch. The interior, though, is where things are really underrated. Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton don't get enough credit for what they've done. They've been disruptive. They have been a major impact on any team that they face, and that's what makes this defensive line so good. That starting four is phenomenal, and that's just the defense. The offense also has a number of plays that will definitely keep an eye on, players that will watch. Trayvon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins obviously lead the way in the backfield. Will Howard is having a really good college football playoff, and Carnell Tate stepped up for them in a big way. Jeremiah Smith has had big plays. Obviously, he got taken away against Texas, and Emeka Egbuka, kind of the same thing, but they have guys that are ready and able to make big plays. So if you're Notre Dame, you have plenty of players to keep an eye on and plenty of players to watch. That being said, you have players that are stepping up in a big way for Notre Dame as well. When you look at what we saw in the last game, Jaden Greathouse's emergence gives you some excitement for this game. It adds another element, another wrinkle into this offense. Jordan Faison had a couple of plays like that in the first two games. You've had players step up in a big way, and you need everyone kind of to collectively come together to do that again. Jeremiah Love is still a freak even when he's hurt. That's been a really fun development. He makes a rule that he's not going to hurdle, and what does he do against Penn State? Still hurdles guys. He's absolutely phenomenal. It's the last game of the season. Everybody's going to be giving everything that they have, and that's going to be really fun to watch. Riley Leonard, also another player who's gritty, knows how to make plays, and he is the perfect quarterback for that. Keeping him healthy is a key. I think he had a little bit of a scare against Penn State, and you're hoping that Notre Dame is able to keep him upright, keep him clean in the pocket, and finding ways to limit how many hits he takes. The defense is going to have their hands full, but this is a really good defense, an underrated defense. Jack Kaiser, one of the most underrated linebackers in college football. He does not get the recognition that he deserves, and he is someone that's going to make a big impact. He will play a big role in getting Notre Dame to slow down this Ohio State offense. Xavier Watts an absolute ball hawk, knows how to make plays. It'll be interesting to see how Golden and Freeman utilize him and coverage, whether that's, deep downfield, in the slot, wherever they want to use him. It'll be fun to watch how they utilize his talent. Howard Cross coming back, that was a huge return, especially with Riley Mills going down. So you have a really good defense in Notre Dame. Notre Dame has the ability to play as a unit. They have the ability to play well together, and we've seen that so far. Do they have another extremely great game plan in place? Do they have the ability to pull off an upset against Ohio State team that is on an absolute tear? We're going to find out. I think that this Notre Dame team has a little bit more magic in them, and we'll see if the luck of the Irish is on their side.